Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
And I'm glad to be back with you.
I'm so thrilled to see you. You brought the sunshine with you.
I was on the East Coast. Well, first I was in Chicago speaking at Autism One.
And did you have a wonderful time?
I did. It was great. I had a great speech there.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah, I talked about, my speech is called Waiting for Wyatt, A Journey Through Autism to Empowerment.
Yes.
And I give parents 10 steps on steps to empowerment that they can use in this journey of parenting a child with autism.
Wow. If anybody can teach us how to be empowered, you are the lady. You're the one
thank
to do
you
it.
for that. You know, I'm there with the rest of us autism parents, you know, just one step at a time, doing the best we can for our kids. And so that was great. And then my father is in Richmond, Virginia. He's 91.
Oh.
And of course, at 91, you know, things are starting to, you know, he's not quite the man he used to be, but he's an incredible man. So spent some time with him and went to the Outer Banks of North Carolina with my best friend of 44 years.
Wow.
It's a long time to have a best friend.
Yeah.
So Gina, she's been my rock through many, many things in life. How about you? What have you been up to?
I went to Seattle.
Okay.
Went to the ABAI conference.
And how was that?
Oh, I met so many people.
Great.
Got so much information.
Can we have some of them to come guest?
Absolutely,
come on the show?
Absolutely. And real nuts and bolts things about, you know, individual behaviors and how to deal with them.
Excellent.
I mean, so much. My head is still filled with it. And then we came back, and of course, it was my son's 9th birthday yesterday. So we had family, and we been on the treadmill of the birthday thing and went to Disneyland, and I'm exhausted. And, but it was wonderful. I think it's so important to celebrate.
Yes.
And it was a year ago yesterday that he graduated from his ABA program, and so really interesting to take stock and see how far we've come even in that year.
Yeah.
Really kind of amazing. So lots of gratitude and lots of information that I got while I was away, but it sounds like you, same thing. Lots and lots of information.
Yeah, it was good. Met some really interesting people that I'd like for us to bring on the show, and so we'll be inviting some of them on in the future.
Very cool. And stuff was happening in the world while we were gone, some things that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And especially you've got some things.
Yes, I do. Our friend Ariva Martin of the Special Needs Network here in Los Angeles, her camp is coming up. The Special Needs Network 3rd Annual Joe Patton Academy Camp, Camp JPAC, and they're taking applications now through June 15th. The Joe Patton Camp is the only free inclusion summer camp for special needs children, and they're typically developing siblings and peers age 5 to 16, and it's a 2-week program, July 16th to August 10th, and August 13th to August 30th, 9 to 4 every day. This is free.
There you go. Pretty fabulous.
Campers participate in a variety of recreational programs, including academic enrichment, dance, theater, music, arts and crafts, and field trips to local attraction. And in addition to that, the LA Sparks will conduct a special basketball clinic, and graduate students from the University of Southern California, USC, will lead a robotics program focusing on math, science, and technology.
Nice.
So this is just great. So now through June 15th, application period. And I know that we put the application up. Yeah, Emily put that up.
Absolutely. But now that's in Los Angeles, but also in San Diego, another free camp that you guys are involved with, Inclusion Films, is doing a camp for military families and their siblings in San Diego. And so that's a really exciting thing, and we want to make sure that families are applying to do that as well.
Yes.
And we even have a clip, a
little promo clip.
Okay, Emily, can you show that so that our families can see what exactly we're talking about? Inclusion Films.
Autism is an epidemic affecting 1 in 88 children. Military families impacted by autism wage a battle on 2 fronts, one for their country, another for their children. Cox Communications is proud to announce an autism film program for military children taking place June 18th to the 29th. The program provides social and life skills to military children with autism and their siblings. To apply or for more information, go to acttodayformilitaryfamilies.org.
Really exciting. And of course, Joey Travolta runs Inclusion Films, and we had him on.
Yeah, wasn't he a great guest?
He was fabulous. He was so exciting and dynamic.
His passion for what he does working with our kids is just amazing.
Yeah, really, really intense, caring, sensitive guy. At one point I turned and said, boy, you're the real deal, aren't you? And I loved, he said, yes, I am.
Yes.
Love a man with confidence.
Right.
Yes, I am the real deal. Thank you very much.
I did have one more thing I wanted to bring up. ACT Today is looking for a group of young people we're going to put together that we're going to call the Compassion Crusaders. What we're looking for is kids on the autism spectrum from ages 17 to 30.
Okay.
And or their siblings.
All right.
To talk about why compassion for those on the autism spectrum is the super cool thing to be and to have. Wonderful. And that can talk about their experiences in working with autism and being the sibling of someone with autism or having it themselves.
Right.
And the goal of this, it's called the Compassion Project, is to let the public know about behaviors of those with autism, things you might find, and how to celebrate the differences, appreciate the differences, and learn to be compassionate and discourage bullying.
Awesome.
So we're looking to put together a group of young people from all over the country.
Okay.
And get them out doing some public speaking and working with us.
A wonderful opportunity. Where would they apply? How
they would write info@act-today.org.
Okay.
Or amy@act-today.org, but they can go to our website and there's also a link there to contact us.
Cool.
So we want kids from all over the country.
Wonderful.
Okay.
What a great opportunity.
We said 17 because there's going to be maybe a little travel involved to going to some of the schools and organizations that we'd like to have them speak at.
Okay, so if you're a parent watching this and you know a child or a teacher who knows a child, not a child, a young adult.
If you have a young adult, a teen, young adult, if you are the sibling of someone with autism and you want to talk about it, it's a great opportunity to get out there and educate people. We're going to put you on our website. We're going to have you do a video explaining why Compassion for Autism is cool. And we're going to start a social media program and public speaking for this group.
Exciting.
Yeah,
that's really exciting.
It's a good
You've always got good things. And I wanted to mention too, since we were last here, something really exciting happened. The United States government made the decision that they are going to start funding ABA for their federal employee program as of January 1st, 2013. They are the largest employer in the United States, and they are now, and there are no age caps and no dollar amount caps at this moment in time.
That is incredible news.
And you can find out more about that on autismvotes.org.
Okay.
But that is, and it's really interesting to me because we literally had a family who called into the show 2 weeks ago and said that they were experiencing difficulties. And one of the first questions I ask is, have you found out if you're eligible? And they said, no, we are not eligible. But an ex, it's a veteran, served 4.5 years for our military and is now a federal employee, and his child did not have access to ABA, but and I was thrilled to be able to call back and say, guess what, as of January 1st.
That is amazing news.
It's all going to change for you. So really exciting. We're thrilled that is happening for so many of you. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but when we come back, we are going to be joined by some very special guests. We have our matching books here.
Books, yeah, and it matches my shirt, and then it matches my coffee cup.
Yes,
it's an orange
color
day.
Coordinated here. It's the color of sunshine. Monica Holloway, author of Cowboy Wills, is going to be joining us along with her husband, Michael Price, who's one of the writers on The Simpsons and other projects. I was saying it wrong before, but he is the writer, I have my note here somewhere, on Lego Star Wars Padawan Menace.
Oh, okay.
That's the one. So
right, I know
had
Jim's
it wrong.
into that stuff, right?
Yes, he is. I was saying Clone Wars. I was completely wrong. It's Padawan Menace.
Oh.
So we're going to find out more about that.
Great.
Stick with us because this will be really fun. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Nancy.
And we have our special guests on the wire. We're working out some technical difficulties.
Yes.
Sometimes we have gremlins.
Yeah.
But we have them at least vocally. We want to welcome them to the show. It's Monica Holloway and Michael Price.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, and we got a picture
That's
of
a great picture of you guys.
Oh, good.
Okay, so it's great. Monica and Michael are autism parents.
Yes.
And Monica wrote the fantastic memoir, Cowboy Wills, the story of their amazing, Michael and Monica's amazing son, Wills, and his adorable golden retriever puppy, Cowboy.
And this is a wonderful, wonderful book.
It's a great book. It's a love story, as it says. And it truly is a love story. And I was just spending time with my best friend back in Virginia and her 3-month-old golden retriever puppy, and there is nothing like a golden retriever puppy to bring the world together. I think we would have world peace if we simply put golden retriever puppies all over the world.
What a wonderful thing. And Michael is also a writer on The Simpsons, which we all love, and also on Lego Star Wars Padawan Menace.
Which our kids love.
Which our kids love. And I have to tell you, when I said to both of my gentlemen at home, my son who turned 9 yesterday, and my husband who is not 9, but sometimes you would think he is, and I said, guess who we're having on the show today? And they were both very excited. But I have to say, Monica, that one of the first things out of his mouth was, "Oh, will you please tell her how much I loved that book?"
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
So, and I have to tell you, he's a huge Simpsons fan. So I was quite amazed that was the first thing that came out of his mouth.
That is.
Oh, that's great. I'm wrestling to the Michael to the ground right now because The Simpsons almost always wins over autism.
Okay.
Well, I had to have been close, but the fact that you won that battle, I think that says it all.
That's pretty great.
It is pretty awesome. And so, of course, we want to talk to you guys about being parents and some of the things that you're working on. And but it has to be said that people can get this book. You can buy it pretty much anywhere. It's on sale in bookstores. You can buy it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very touching book, but I just have to say it's one of the funniest books I've ever read also.
It's got some great stories.
Monica's probably the funniest person I know.
Well, and that's saying a lot for somebody who writes for one of the funniest shows on television.
Yeah.
Yes, there are only 4. I love to read, and there are only 4 books in my life that I have ever read that have made me laugh out loud, and yours is one of them.
And it also made me cry as well as laugh, and those are my favorite kinds of books where you laugh and cry.
Yes, you're going to laugh and cry.
That's a lot to me. Thank you.
Wonderful. But let's talk a little bit about Wills.
Yes.
And have you tell the story of Wills.
Yeah, our favorite subject, really.
I love this new cover. Is this a new cover that we have up?
Is that the blue one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, since we're having our Skype problem, I can't see it. Yeah, the cover and the paperback is the new cover.
I love it.
And I love that cover too. We had a lot of anyway, we don't have to go into talking about the cover, but there was a lot of Simon & Schuster and back and forth with everybody about the red cover, which was the hard copy.
Mm-hmm.
And we loved it. It was coming out around Christmas time. But I will say that the paperback took off. The paperback, I think because of the cover, really told the story of the book better. And the paperback is what really helped the book go and helped people relate to the book more. So I'm glad you like the cover, and I love it too.
Yeah,
It's
really
beautiful.
nice. Now tell us, the book came out in 2009, Monica?
Yes.
Okay.
And the paperback 2010.
The paperback in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your son, Wills. How old is Wills now?
Will
Just turned 15.
Wow.
We're freaking out.
I know. I'm freaking out that my little Wyatt is 10. And Shannon just celebrated Jim's 9th birthday.
Yeah, yesterday.
We're all freaking out. Our babies are growing up.
Yes.
Can you both tell us, whoever wants to start, about Will's diagnosis of autism, which you cover in the book at age 3, and just how that obviously affected you and changed your world?
Well, we really kind of knew early on, we'd never had, obviously, Wills is our only child, not obviously, but for those of you that don't know, Wills is our only child. And at the time, we didn't have a lot of friends with young babies, with any babies. I guess all babies are young. And so he had a really hard time with, well, I would say he had profound stranger anxiety from birth until it just steadily got worse, right? Would you say, Michael?
Yes.
To the point where sometimes it was hard, often it was hard for even Michael to stay with him. If I were in the room, Wills was okay. But if I even took a shower, he was not okay. So we knew really early on, something was not right. But then he'd have these bursts where he would smile and be, really animated, and then he didn't crawl and he didn't babble. I remember a friend of mine saying, I've always been afraid I'll forget the baby in the back seat, because she had just had a baby. And I said, I know, I'm always saying, and of course, Wills was the only thing I could think of. And she said, but I could never forget my daughter because there's all that babbling. And that was the first time, I think Wills was 6 months or 7, that I realized that how silent my car was. And I was very frightened. And he had some motor skill issues, right, Michael?
He had some things that we didn't quite understand until later, that we had a big birthday party for him when he turned 1.
Oh, boy.
And he was very overwhelmed by it. But then the thing that, which we later found out affects a lot of kids with autism, is when we sang happy birthday to him, he broke down and he cried, and he was
inconsolable.
He covered his ears. And I think we thought maybe, we overwhelmed, it was too big of a party, but I think in retrospect, we realized later that may have been, those are probably signals of something was going on then too.
Okay.
So we worried about it, and the pediatrician had brought up, several things, saying, we want to watch this, or we want to check in. But what ended up being the final moment, where I wasn't waiting any longer, was Wills was 18 months old, and this is actually in the book, but my friend Jen called, and Wills had never met her, to see if she could just drop a book off at the house. And I thought, oh no, because Wills was very scared of strangers. So I said, sure. And there was a part of me, as you guys know, I'm sure, about staying home with your child when you start to you just want to see your friends and be out in the world again. And Wills just couldn't go out in the world. So I said, please come over. And so Wills was working on little cloth blocks on the floor when she came by, and I told him she was coming. But when I opened the door, I turned around and the blocks were scattered and he was gone. And I went looking for him, and I was very panicked. I couldn't find him. And I went back to Jen and said, he's not feeling very well. So can we talk another time? And she said, I just want to see him. And I said, well, we'll do this another time. And she was great, and she left, and I thanked her for the book. And I went through his room, and he had crawled in the very, very back of his closet behind the stack of boxes. I do not know to this day how he even got back there so fast. And I could only reach the top of his head because I was pulling boxes out, and he did not want me to pull him out. And I realized he needed to sit there. And when I finally saw him over the top of the boxes, he was rocking back and forth, and he was completely blank. And I was hysterical. At that point, I called a therapist that I knew, and I said, I need to see somebody tomorrow. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then how did you finally get the diagnosis of autism?
Well, she said right away that she thought that he was under the umbrella, but that he was too young to diagnose. And she was very careful with us because, we were very obviously worried and wanting things. What I wanted the most and what Michael wanted the most was to get him what he needed as soon as possible. Because we started reading everything we could about autism, about spectrum disorders, about what's the other diagnosis that they give?
PDD, NOS. Yeah, that's what my son got when I say to people, a trained chimpanzee could have diagnosed him with moderate autism, but no, PDD, NOS.
There you go. So we were in excellent hands. In fact, we were in such excellent hands that Wills, at 15 and in puberty, still sees the therapist that he started to see at 18 months old. And the book is actually dedicated to her.
Yes.
And I talk about her a lot in the book.
You talk about her a lot in the book, and it's amazing that she's been such a constant in your life and in Will's life, and that's excellent when you can have that. I'm so glad that as a family you found that person.
Absolutely.
I think you and our team. theme for us, which was really
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Right.
I think we should take a break and see if we can
Let's see if
get
we
you
can
up
get
on
the
video.
real people up.
And
got lots
then
of
when we
questions.
come back, we want to talk about what this did to your marriage, some of which you talk about in the book, and how you guys weathered it together, and a little bit about the kinds of things that happened and changed, not the least of which was the appearance of Cowboy.
Of Cowboy Carol Lawrence.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll take
Let's
a break
try to
and we'll
get
be
you
back. Yeah.
on camera.
Yeah, absolutely. So stick with us. We're going to see if we can show you Monica Holloway and Michael Price. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
And I think we have Monica Holloway and Michael Price live. Hey, guys. Oh, you're just as cute as your pictures.
We're live from our living room, and we have two bunny rabbits watching us from the cage.
I love it. Oh, that's a great segue. Now, Monica wrote Cowboy and Wills. Michael is a very well-known television writer, The Simpsons, and we are talking, they are parents of a young man named Wills, who is now 15, who has autism. And the remarkable story that Monica documented in her book, Cowboy and Wills, a love story about their lives, raising Wills. And you said two bunny rabbits, animals. Big turning point for Wills. We just talked about the diagnosis. We just talked about his anxiety. Now, he loved animals, and both of you found that animals were really a doorway to Wills. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. He always loved animals. He, before we got Cowboy, he was into little animals. At his school, they had guinea pigs, and there was a rat that was called Red Rat Dirt.
Wills named it, of course.
Right. That he loved, and he really responded to animals always, all kinds. So all through the years, and Monica talks about it in her book, that the day that the diagnosis came down, I think one of the first things you did was you took him to the aquarium.
To the aquarium.
Yeah, we went from the therapist to Ben's fish store down the street here on Ventura and bought a 10-gallon aquarium at that point. So.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing that Catherine in the book talked about, was like fish were also a good thing to sort of help him, sort of a thing for him to look for sort of his visual training and that as well. So, but he just always responded to animals throughout his entire life. We've gone through phases of, we've had, I don't know, a couple dozen or so hermit crabs that he's given all amazing names to, many hamsters, several different kinds of turtles.
I think Booner, Schooner, and False Alarm are two of the hamsters that get a lot of attention.
I love the names. I love the names. Now, it's interesting because we live on a little, and I mean little, 1-acre ranch in Hidden Hills, California, and we have 3 dogs and 2.5 horses. I'll explain that because one of the horses is a miniature. So if you'd like to bring Wills over to meet Addie, Big Moon, and Minnie Moon, I'll take him for a ride on Big Moon.
There you go.
And I found, with our son, Wyatt, animals were also a big key to kind of unlocking some things with Wyatt, his love of animals. So we share that. And are you thinking about getting a puppy?
No, we got a dog. The dog.
Got one.
Yes, we have the horror story of the dog. The dog is away. We're saying.
Right, Shannon.
Yes, the dog is away right now. We're saying she's on vacazione, but she's doing intensive training with a behavior person.
Behavior therapy comes in handy with everybody.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Lovely dog, but she turns into Cujo when anybody comes around. It's upsetting.
Thankfully, Cowboy was not like that. Now,
right.
Tell us when Cowboy Carol Lawrence, how did she come into your family, and how did you get that name?
Yes.
Okay. Well, when we had to move Wills from preschool, which was hard enough, but he went to the early years over in Santa Monica, and they were wonderful to him, and they gave us the big giant rabbit Ruby with the attitude, and she's in the book, but I'll leave Ruby to any of you that want to read it. She's her own character, but she came from the preschool, and then the transition from preschool to kindergarten, which we knew was going to be difficult, proved to be almost insurmountable. We were afraid. He went into a private school in the Valley called the Children's Community School, and it seemed like he might not make it there. Then they were telling us, that he was doing some rocking and not reaching out to other kids, and I was very worried. And when I get worried, and it really, I think I'm the worst. I spent more money at Petco than I have on my hair or wardrobe or anything. But so of course I went to Petco to get yet, a fourth hamster. But that was not, I say in the book, that was not enough. That was not big enough for what we were facing. So Wills got in the car from kindergarten. I'd already been called that day to say that he was having a really hard time, was very lonely and crying a lot. And I was very sad. And I just said, hey, we should get a puppy. And he said, let's go get one right now. And I'm like, not remembering that kids that little don't necessarily know you might have to wait for a puppy. And it was the last week in September. And I said, well, we have to ask Daddy. But I was saying to myself, we're getting a puppy. Michael's pretty easy to get along with, so I figured he'd be okay with it.
I was okay with it.
But what I didn't know was trying to get a puppy for Christmas. A couple of months before Christmas, a golden retriever is not the easiest thing to do.
No.
I did a lot of research, and just quickly, I think I made a huge mistake by going to a pet store.
Right.
And really big mistake, and ended up with Cowboy being not well when we got her, but we didn't know it at the time.
Well, yeah, they thought she had a cold and all different things, and even by the time we realized, a few months, I guess, into having her, I mean, we were in love with her. Wills was in love with her, and there was now nothing we were going to not do. To
any animal, we would never.
Yeah, I mean,
if an animal was sick, we would take care of the animal.
Right.
But the thing was, she there's a video on my website of Wills actually getting Cowboy, of her coming down the steps, but it took him a long time to pick the name, and it was Sparky, it was he had Ringo and Rango, and all these things, and it turned out in his life he's often named anything that's female a male name. So I explained to him, Cowboy's great and I love it, but this is before we got her, but people might think she's a boy. And so he said that was okay, and I said, as long as that's okay with you, it's fine with us, right? You agreed.
Yeah.
And by then we'd had 3x5 cards of names all over the wall of his bedroom. So we took them all down and just left Cowboy. So we picked up Cowboy the morning we went to get her. Michael is somebody that you guys probably know somebody like this. The minute Thanksgiving's over, Christmas carols come on.
And Carol Lawrence happened to be singing, right?
Well, there were Christmas carols, and so when he came out to go pick up Cowboy, Christmas carols were playing, and he said, I'm going to call her Cowboy Carol so people will know.
Cowboy Carol.
So that's how Carol came, and then 2 months later, go ahead.
Well, you'd think Carol came from Carol Lawrence.
Right.
Carol Lawrence, but no.
He doesn't know who that is. Well, he does now, but
Go ahead.
So then we were at the Long's drugstore over in Brentwood, and we were waiting for a prescription, and they kept saying over the loudspeaker, will Mr. Lawrence please come to the pharmacy? And Wills was getting more and more upset, and his hands were over his ears, and he said, they're going to give Mr. Lawrence's medicine away. And I said, I think they'll wait for Mr. Lawrence. And pretty soon this sort of Paul Newman-y type man in a natty coat comes up, and Wills yells, Lawrence is here! And the man just sort of did a thumbs up to Wills, So then we were heading home, and of course we had Cowboy with us because Cowboy went everywhere. She was still a puppy, and he was in his car seat or his booster seat with Cowboy on his lap with her head out, and we pulled up into an intersection, and there were these really tattooed, wild-looking young men, just, rock and roller types in a convertible. And this guy goes, hey, what's your dog's name? And I was like, Wills is going to fall apart. And he goes, Cowboy Carol Lawrence. And that was it. And that was her name.
That's so cute.
That is so wonderful. I wanted to know a little bit about, because how often we don't get dads very often,
or couples,
and especially couples together, and couples who have weathered this successfully. But this is not an easy journey for a family. But clearly, you guys are still happily married. And but was this easy for you? There's one I have it in the book here a segment that my husband and I particularly loved. It was something that was very healing for us, where you were talking about, and I could read from it, but basically, Michael, you were away for a while working.
Yes.
And at one point, there was a conversation that you guys had about what it was like for you, Monica, when he wasn't there, and what it was like when he was there, and dealing with the fact that you were on 2 different pages. It's bone honest, and really, truly helped my husband and I to be able to talk about these kinds of things. But
Yeah.
tell us about what it was like for you guys and how you weathered it.
Well, it was extremely hard, especially at first, because on top of reacting to, the diagnosis and all the work that had to be done and everything that we had to do with Wills, it was a time where I had just taken a job. I work for television sitcoms, and I've been very lucky for the last almost 11 years now to be on The Simpsons. But previous to that, the life of a TV writer is one where you get on a show, you hope it goes, more often than not, it doesn't, it gets canceled or it ends, and then you try to get another job. So this job that came along was a really excellent opportunity, but it required me to be out of town. It was in Chicago, and the show was all being filmed in Chicago, and all of us writers and producers were required to be there, and it became this thing of me traveling back and forth every other weekend for a weekend, and Monica and Wills coming out every once in a while to spend time with us, with me there.
But I want to say, and Michael didn't just go off to Chicago, which is what I decided to believe for about 3 months after he left, when I was so upset and sad and lonely, and scared, really scared. But we decided as a family that he would take the job, and James L. Brooks was producing, and Michael was his career was really getting going, and it would have been really not good for his career to have turned that opportunity down to the Joan Cusack show, and it didn't end up flying, but for almost 2 years, a little less than that, they worked in Chicago. And we were all going to go together, but that is literally right when Wills was finally diagnosed with autism, and they did not feel, and Jessica did not. Jessica's name is Catherine. I'm not supposed to say.
Okay.
She loves us. She'll get over that.
Right.
I do that often in an interview, but because she's so familiar.
Well, she felt there's no way you can uproot him now. He was just starting his preschool.
Yeah, that stability is so important.
He just turned 3. I started the show. The time to move to Chicago was going to be the September after he had turned. So he was almost 3.5. So it was impossible for we're all going to move to Chicago. It just couldn't have happened. So that on top of that, that made it very, very difficult. And I wasn't here so often, and Monica was full on. Luckily, with our economic circumstances,
very lucky.
Monica didn't have to work outside the house. Monica could stay and just take care of Wills.
Because we had $140 after we got married. So the fact that, Michael got his first sort of really big writing job when I was in the hospital delivering Wills.
That's right.
It's just such a godsend, and I say this to families all the time, and it just breaks my heart, and that's why we work so hard for organizations that work toward families getting services. All of our charities involve giving money and fundraising to help other families that weren't able to do what we were able to do, which is hire people we needed.
Obviously, that's what I do as executive director of ACT Today, Autism Care and Treatment Today, as we raise funds for families that cannot access or afford treatment, which is unfortunately the large majority of them. And as you know, the strain on a family, Shannon and I talk about this all the time on this show. The strain on a family is overwhelming, and when you combine the financial strains, we all know the cost of caring for a child with autism and how extraordinary it can be. So, thankfully you were able to not have some of those strains. But
you were away, and which became its own constraint, right?
Absolutely. It was. I was not only away, but working. The hours were extreme. And so I would come home on the weekends. We would finish taping a show in Chicago on Friday night, and I'd be on the first plane, leaving Chicago at around 5 a.m. on Saturday. Every other week to get here to LA around 9. And so I was tired, over the weekend, and then I'd leave on the red eye on Sunday night and do it all over again. So it was hard enough for me, but it was triply hard for Monica, because she was full on with Wills.
I'm not sure that it was triply hard. I want to say something about fear and shame. you don't want to have any shame around a diagnosis or a child.
Right.
And when we finally admitted that we were scared, really scared, each of us were scared in different ways.
Yeah.
I was scared in the way that you go and you research everything and you turn over every stone and, you're hyper and you don't, Michael was scared in a way that he sort of, if you don't mind my saying, just gets very quiet.
Yes.
Doesn't become very emotional. And
you mean he's male?
Yeah, he's male and you're female. Autism warrior mom and typical dad.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes,
and my job, the way I reacted, I think, was often to be the sort of guy that's like, everything's going to be all right, and sort of make, which didn't help at all.
And it was not all right.
Did not help at all.
It was not all right.
I can say that. It was not helpful.
But you got through it.
We did.
We had to get a therapist. I mean, when he came back, I really just wanted him to get an apartment because I had done it on my own. I saw that I could. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, it was easier for me to know that the help wasn't coming.
Right.
It's like I did it well, I feel like, and I also felt like I found my stride, and I thought maybe Michael wasn't going to be able to come around with the diagnosis. It was that hard for you, and I think it's hard for a lot of men and
a lot of couples.
All of us.
Yeah.
But hey.
But you guys, we don't have enough time, or I would read this excerpt, but you talk about it. You guys communicated, and you said, I'm afraid, and I feel like you're on a different page, and you said, I'm scared, and you both said you were sorry, and, so I think so important that you talked about it, and you writing it made it possible for my husband and I to talk about it. But Michael, you did come around. What was that like?
It felt great. It felt, well, first of all, this job in Chicago, ended. I was sorry that the show didn't make it, but then I knew I had a job waiting for me here at The Simpsons, so I was able to come home and be home. And I think it took a lot for me, that's sort of been the story of my life, is sort of learning how to express emotions and get in touch with feelings. And it's okay to say things that are scary or that are, not the best, not everything has to be cheerful all the time. And that was a real difficult time for me to do that. And Monica, thank God, stayed there. And
I was pretty mad, but
she was.
Yeah, that honesty.
We were disappointed in each other, and that was hard.
Yeah.
Right. But that honesty is so important for other men, other fathers of children with autism to hear, because there is a huge disappointment. There is that moment of maybe my kid's not going to be, the Little League star, and maybe my kid's not going to go play with the majors one day. Yeah. That's a huge disappointment. And for other dads to hear that, thank you for your honesty. It's
Absolutely.
important.
I mean, I remember the exact moment. It was very early this is way before this, but it was very early when we first started to see Will's therapist, and she said, well, we had moved into our house that we're living in now around that same time as well. So, she said, well, I think Will's may have a problem with transitions, and I remember saying in the office, saying to both of them, to Monica and Catherine, saying, well, we'll move to the new house, and I think maybe in like a couple of weeks, then I think we'll all be good.
Yeah.
we wouldn't have to come here anymore.
Oh, bless your heart.
They both looked at me like, oh my God, you've got a lot of waking up to do. that was my mindset, and it's exactly everything you just said is true.
Well, back to, I'm sorry, Monica, go ahead.
Oh, just that when he started opening up to Wills and being vulnerable with Wills, and I don't think I had really seen you cry hardly at all. He sat down with Wills in the family room and started to cry when he realized all the things that Wills could do that he'd missed.
Yeah.
And we'd been to Chicago and everything, but all the things that Wills had set up in the house for himself, and he just started to cry so hard, and Wills could see that, and I think there was an opening then, and I don't think these two have ever stopped just getting closer and closer and closer, because from then on, Wills was on your shoulders and back. He was like a rhesus monkey on you.
Also, what's interesting, which made the whole Chicago experience, bittersweet, is that he loves Chicago.
He took Chicago by storm.
And his sort of, in terms of Asperger's, his sort of area of interest has always been trains and transportation. So going to Chicago is like his dream place, because we'll just go together for a weekend, and we get off the plane, we take the subway to our hotel, we put our bags down, run out, and just hop on the L and just ride it all day long.
That's great.
And it's so fun. So that was a place where he learned, he sort of came into himself as well. There's this really wonderful story of me holding him in his arms, in my arms, and saying, well, we got to get back to where, you know, the apartment where Mommy is. And he literally, like, on Michigan Avenue, like, held his hand up and, like, hailed a taxi cab.
That's great.
He's really at home in cities and that kind of thing. And
he loves New York. Yeah. He loves Chicago. Wow. He loves. It's interesting.
Tell us about Wills today and what he's up to.
Well, go ahead.
No, go. It's great.
He is doing so well. The story of his life, in so many ways, too, is sort of coming up against a challenge or a roadblock, and then combination of us and him thinking maybe he can't do it, and then him just exploding through it. So
like the way he walked in the book, you know, he wouldn't walk. Then he just walks up and gets himself practically a sandwich. You know, he's like, he's same with the way he swam. He just watches and then he does it.
He has a moment, a while there of sort of not knowing, and then just sort of finding something within himself to just go ahead and do it. So you mentioned baseball. That, you know, I'm a huge baseball fan, and I'd always hoped that he would be too. And he really kind of was, kind of wasn't. And then through getting a Wii system, we started playing the Wii version of baseball. And he loved that so much because he really got excited on the idea of like hitting home runs, you know, on the Wii, that he said, let's go out and all that stuff you've been trying all these years, like throwing a ball to me, I'm sort of into it now. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And we started going out to the park, and I would just sort of pitch a few things to him, and he was very rusty. He missed it 100 times in a row. And then he suddenly, just like all those other things, he just got really, really good at it. And now baseball is almost taken over from trains as his super area.
I hope that happens with us. I hope that happens with Wyatt, because I mean, I feel like we have so many commonalities as parents of these children. But my son, you know, I thought maybe, is he still going to be into Thomas the Tank Engine when other kids are, you know, at the drinking age?
He won't be. I promise. But you know, it doesn't help for somebody else to tell you. But he won't be.
But then Will's two years ago, I guess now, we learned of a little league in our area, Granada Hills, that we'd heard had a challenger division, which is, you know, for kids who have special needs or some kind of thing like that. And we said, well, let's see if he wants to try it. You know, we went out there for the sign up. They go, we no longer have the challenger league, but you can still try out just regular. We're like, well, let's give it a shot.
We've never been so sweaty.
We'd never been to this place before. It was a total new experience. He went to the tryout. He took his swings, and through just amazing grace, we got this incredible guy named Steve to be his coach, who picked him for his team. He now is like one of the mainstays of this league. He's now played for 3 years.
With the full inclusion, and this is not a special league.
No, it's a regular.
He had a grand slam his first year, and then all the kids. It was like you were there, with the disbelief. They were yelling, "Dog pile on Wills," and everybody's like, "No!" But they did. And underneath was this kid just like beaming and in shock and so happy. And it's a special. I have to give a shout out to Granada Hills Little League, because their families are so kind and sweet. They have bent over backwards to make sure that we're comfortable and that Wills does well. And we keep saying over and over, treat him like the rest of the kids. That's what you can do for Wills. Treat him like everybody else.
That's great.
Once again, that inclusion, that getting our kids around typical kids, so important. So what grade is Wills in now?
He's about to start 9th grade in September.
Okay. And is he...
For the first time.
Mainstreamed.
He'll be mainstreamed.
Okay.
Incredible. My face hurts from smiling so much. You guys have been absolutely wonderful.
I know, and I wanted to get back to Cowboy, but, you know, we should just let people read the book.
Yes.
And just one final question. How did Cowboy change your lives and Will's life?
You know, I think it's... I feel like Will's has changed me. I mean, you guys know, and anybody that has autism in their family knows, and you know, but for what it is for you. But when I think of the person I was before I had Wills, and how worried I was that I wasn't going to be able to do enough for Wills, or I wasn't smart enough to have Wills and know what to do, I didn't have to do any of that, because he taught me to be a more patient person, a kinder person. I had a lot of rage from my childhood and my, you know, all that drained away, because what mattered was this moment and that moment and that moment. And watching him care for Cowboy as she got sicker, we should say Cowboy ended up with canine lupus, which we've never heard. And I said, only I would give an autistic child a dog with cancer. It's like, what?
So there's not enough challenges, right, Monica?
I believe it. But what happened was, his empathy really started to show, because he made her a pillow out of his old pajama tops that he tore out, and he stuffed it with paper towel, and he made her a doghouse that he'd made when she was little out of our refrigerator box. But he kept it in the garage, and when she was sick, he brought it back out, and he put little fluffy colored balls all over it, and that bed he'd made inside where she slept when she was literally dying, and he was with her the day that she died. I wasn't going to send him to school the next day, but his therapist said, you know what, don't keep him home and tell him to be isolated. Her big thing with me was get him out in the world, and my big thing was isolate, protect, isolate. Yeah. And she's like, he's got to go to those birthday parties, he's got to go to school. So I sent him to school the next day, and all the kids knew Cowboy. I'm trying to hurry because I know we're running out of time. I left him at school all day long. I was so sad and worried about him. And when I went to pick him up, he came out of the classroom, and for the first time ever in his life, he was draped by children that he knew and loved since kindergarten. And they were all crying, and he was beaming. And I would say that her gift to him, because the teacher was so wonderful at Children's Community School, Corinne, that she had set them in a circle and said, let's all go around and talk about what we liked about Cowboy or what we didn't like about Cowboy, and then let's talk about other losses that we've had. So he heard about people losing grandparents, about kitten dying, about that people have lost.
Yeah.
And he felt so strengthened by that. And I would say that is the day. I say it, and it's hard to believe, but I think we agree it's true, that he turned to people. He turned to
That's amazing. She was an opening
what
there.
A gift.
So what, you all are delightful. As Shannon said, our mouths are hurting from laughing. What a great story, your parenting, your journey with Cowboy and your son Wills. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's such a pleasure.
And we'll look forward to talking to you guys again sometime in the future. We hope you'll come back.
Great. Anytime.
That would be wonderful.
All right, thank you so much. And everyone should get Cowboy and Wills.
It's a great love story.
You will laugh.
And it's out in paperback now.
Yes. Love that. Thank you so much, you guys.
All right.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. And it's time for us to say goodbye, isn't it?
We're here in the last minutes here. So we've got lots of exciting things coming up in the next couple of weeks.
And we're going to be here all summer, aren't we?
Yes, pretty much.
Pretty much. A week or two, maybe?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know about you, but I need some time with my boy.
You need some time. We all need time with our boys. We need to get out there by the pool, have some fun, go to the beach, be with your kids. Don't, I can't believe my child is 10 and a half. It's freaking me out. Catch the joy as it flies. Yes. Love them hard, love them long.
Absolutely. And we'll look forward to having you back next week. It slips my mind at the moment who we have next week. I can't think. So
we have 1 minute here. I don't know. Is our fabulous production intern Caitlin out there?
Is it next week that we're having From Carly's Voice on?
Yes, Arthur from Carly's Voice.
Okay.
He wrote a book about his daughter who is nonverbal with his daughter, I believe. And we're going to explore that. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to be reading it this week.
Very excited. Me too.
And another author, another autism parent. We learn so much by sharing each other's journeys, don't we, Shannon?
Absolutely. I think when you share it, you let go of something, and it goes out into the universe and tells us all that we're all going to be okay.
We're not alone. We have others on this journey, and Shannon and I are here to bring them to you and to share our journeys with you. So thank you for being a part of our audience.
And be in touch with us. Give us your suggestions, your thoughts, your comments, because we're always interested in that. But until next week, give your kiddos a hug from us.
Catch the joy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonderful.